Welcome to the Thresholds of Reality, the podcast where we explore unexplained and mysterious events, phenomena, and legends. Today we are both in the same studio, on the same camera, on the same microphone, talking to you guys about what makes this show tick, the things that we have enjoyed over the last, it's been 6 months?
Yeah.
About 6 months since we started the podcast. And we had such a great time hanging out yesterday at a kind of an industry meet and greet that we are back together today, sharing studio, sharing lighting, sharing mics and cameras. And we just wanted to chat with you guys about some of the things that are going on with us. We're going to get an update from Kyle about how the whole ghost hunt is going. And we're going to kind of recap. It's been 25 episodes already. We kind of want to revisit some of the great content that we've had. I'm going to put my phone on mute. It's notifying me that I am live.
Mine just did too.
Great. And kind of go over some of the stuff that we've done in the last 6 months. Maybe you've missed, and we'd love to let you guys know the content is out there. But first, we wanted to talk about this industry event. And yesterday, my buddy Brian, who you guys might know from Triple D Dodgeball, let me know that there was going to be a paranormal investigation meet and greet. And we went up to Scottsdale to Local Patron, and we sat down. There was probably a good, healthy 30 to 40 people there.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much filled the restaurant.
Yeah. And we sat down and we swapped, I don't have any stories to tell personally, but I listened to the stories of probably half a dozen people talking about the the paranormal investigations, ghost investigations that they do, and got some really great stories. And we got a lot of business cards of people who want to come on and share their stories with you. As far as the mood, it was all positive. Everyone was very happy to be there.
Yeah, it was awesome. Because I've gone to other ones in the past, and this is what's always turned me off of going to them, is because people have been smug.
Mm-hmm.
And or you go up and I've met up one time. I met up with 6 people, and we were gonna start our own paranormal team. We're gonna start investigating. And I remember sitting there with these guys for 5 hours planning out everything, not even a ghost hunt, just planning out the being in a group. And then we all left, and I never heard from them again. Not one of them ever texted. They never emailed. They were it was that was just something we did one day, and then that was it. It was through some hangout thing where people get together to meet people.
Yeah.
Not single people, but just a way for people to and never heard from any of them ever again.
Wow. Yeah, I used to do a math meet and greet. I'm kind of a math nerd, I would say. And I used to do these math meet and greets in Tempe, but everyone at the meet and greet, they all worked at the same actuarial company. And so I was the odd man out. But last night didn't feel like we were odd men out at all. There were probably 3 different paranormal investigation groups there.
There's some UFO hunters there.
A couple UFO hunters. And then we showed up as podcasters wanting to feature them on our show, and they were so welcoming. The group was called Spiritual Paranormal Investigators of Arizona, or SPI of AZ. And they call themselves, they say that they're a group of open-minded people that have experience in the paranormal or are curious about it. And they're out to see what the way beyond might bring them. So come and take an adventure with them. And I think I met Anita. I don't think I had much interaction with any other group, any of the members that are listed here, but I did talk to Anita. And Candace, I think, was the one who was handing out the tumblers as prizes. But I spoke to a woman who's going to set us up on a hunt in August. In fact, we talked to 2 people who invited us to hunts in August, and hopefully we're able to attend both. But
weren't they on the same day?
They're both on the same day. One of them goes from 6:30 to 9, and the other one is later than that. I think it goes all night. But that's what we're looking at.
I'm excited about that. Because I've never actually done a ghost hunt. Like I've done, I don't even think I've ever talked about this, but I was talking about this with one of the other groups was because I was talking about some of my experiences and like it was kind of like talking to Greg again. Her mind was like,
yeah,
like she couldn't believe it. And so she had asked me about cemeteries.
Okay.
And that's one place I've never had an experience. And I was telling her my brother-in-law lives like right across the street from the Glendale cemeteries. Like, you know what I mean? It's like a 20-second walk.
Yeah.
So we would take my voice recorder out and my K2 meter, and we would go out and walk around and try to see if we can get an activity. And out of all the times we tried, nothing ever happened.
Really?
And she was surprised. She's like, well, you think there would be the most action there? And I said, I never think there would be the most action in a cemetery. Just for the fact is, that's just a final resting place. That isn't what I would think what their spirit would be attached to would be the cemetery.
Their haunts.
Yeah, you think it'd be attached, to their home or to an item or, something like that.
Right.
And that's why I never thought there would be a lot of activity in a graveyard.
Yeah, like how much time do you spend hanging around the place where you will be buried? Like you don't have any connection to that location other than your headstone.
Yeah, and so I was like, and that's why, and I always hated to say this, but there was always one reason why I never go to a cemetery to like pay respects later or to go have chats, because I'm like, you're talking, I don't think that's where they would be.
Right.
You think they would be filled around you and
the places that they were connected to spiritually.
Yes. Right. So, but I mean, I'd be down to try again, like with a group of people. Like maybe that would be.
Yeah. So one of the places that they offered to us, I think she said, was like the Bolin building, and she said it's like a 3,500 square foot open space, and another one was like, let's go to the Magma Center in Superior and to the new police station, old high school or old elementary school. And that there's a lot of activity in those locations. So those were two of the places that they offered to us to go in August. And we're definitely going to do at least one of them.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
It's a shame they're both on the same day. We'd love to go to both. We might get Brian out to help us with the videography if he's available. But it was such a welcoming experience. Do you have the photos from the event?
Did you send them over to me?
I sent them to you on the Messenger, Facebook Messenger. But we'll put up some photos from the event and let you guys know. But they were super cool. So if you guys are interested in a local Arizona supernatural paranormal hunting organization, highly recommend that you check out SPI of AZ. And yeah, here's some of the photos.
All right, let me go.
And get in touch with them. There's lots of organizations, hunting organizations, that are involved in this particular industry group. And here's just some photos. We'll click through the photos. I don't know how you can just use arrows, maybe. Yeah, there you go. We're just gonna scroll down through them. These were some of the folks who were there. All of these people are.
This was I think the person that put it on, the bottom left.
Yeah. And so those are ghost investigations or paranormal investigations of AZ. And they were so generous. They gave everybody cups. You can see them there in the bubble wrap on the table there.
So these people here at the front of the picture were awesome to talk to. They had a
Is that Get Out?
Yep. Get Out Paranoid. We were talking. We didn't actually talk paranormal. I wasn't talking paranormal with them. I was actually talking UFOs. And they said they had some really cool UFO stories to tell, and they would love to come on and tell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of them. Another one we talked to. Let me get all the business cards I left here. We talked to. Shoot, I'm stuck under here. Let's see. We talked to Russ and Kristen Hamilton. I guess they don't charge any fee to investigate.
Yeah, that's who I had a long conversation with them. They were really cool.
They had a really cool business card. It's got like the
They're actually gonna
on it.
help me. She said she has access to a really cool backlog of newspapers from Phoenix and surrounding areas from like 1960 to like the late 90s, before the internet was a huge thing. And so she was like, so I can go back and like look, like the stories I've told about my parents' house and the house I currently live in, and then that townhouse I always tell the stories in. She's like, we're going to go back and we're going to try to find news stories or something that have happened around there that could link it to stuff that I have seen.
Right.
So I think that'll be just so much fun to be able to sit down and, try to see if I can, because I've Googled like my address and I've tried all that and nothing comes up besides that I bought the house.
Right.
Pretty much. You know what I mean? And
tax records.
when you realize that no matter who you are, if you bought a house, all your information's on the internet, no matter what.
It's true.
So, besides, so I was kind of, not, I mean, I was like 50% bummed out, but like 50% like,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't find out, 3 people were murdered at my house or something.
Yeah, that would have been terrifying. Jeez.
Like they say you have to disclose that, but like how far out do they have to disclose that? Like if you're the next person, they might have to disclose it, but if you're the 4th person, do they have to disclose it?
If you're 100 years removed from the murder.
Yeah.
Right? Like how long does that duty last? It certainly doesn't last 100 years.
So that would be kind of interesting to
I'll keep going down. And then we talked for a long time with. So there's.
I'm so excited that they posted that picture of me.
You got a great shot of Kyle admiring his chips and dip, and we had a really fun time. That was the lady that was talking your ear off.
Yep. She was the one saying we're not going to do it there next year.
Yeah.
Or the next time she does it.
She had arranged for the event to take place at Local Patron. But
probably the most humid place on the planet yesterday.
It was wide open. It was so humid.
But it was so much fun just talking to just nice people about no judgment. No, everybody was very... they truly understood and they were excited to hear your stories just as you were excited to hear theirs.
Yeah, that was one thing that a lot of the common theme among all of them was they felt at some point during their lives that they just absolutely could not talk to anyone about these experiences that they had.
Well, it's kind of like you sound like a crazy person usually when you like every time I tell these stories, you see things, you're hallucinating, you must be crazy. Like, what do you mean you see things that aren't there? Like that's crazy talk. Like you tell these stories, even I tell these stories, even when Newbie and I sat down and we told these stories, like we sounded like crazy people. Like we really did. Like there's a ghost that walks up and down the hallway screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy talk, but.
And that was interesting for me to see how them as professionals received the stories that you and Nubia were telling them yesterday, because they were listening to you very intently, and it seemed like they were trying to categorize or identify the types of specters that you were looking at.
Yeah.
So when Nubia was talking about Kurt Cobain or Kid Rock ghost, that's what I'm calling it, because that's basically the description. Long blonde hair, trucker cap, flannel shirt. So I was like, okay, all right, sounds like Kid Rock. But they were like, okay, so did he look like a ghost? Was he like translucent? This and that. She's like, no, he was like, I thought it was a person that had broke into the house. And they're like, okay, so that would, and then you could see like the wheels turning in their heads as they're trying to put a label on it and categorize it so that they can figure out what to do next.
Like, yeah, like you could tell their ghost hunting instincts kick in.
Yeah.
And they just, like when I was talking about, to, I think
Hamilton.
Yeah.
Kristen.
Haunted Arizona, Kristen. She was like, because she used that word, I think Greg used it, and I think Deb used it as well. Empathy.
Okay. Empathic
empathy.
Okay.
I don't have any of that. No. And they were like, and like she was like, what age did it start to come about? How long? And she then like, Nubia had told her a couple stories, and she was like, were you always like that? And she was like, no. She's like, it's crazy that you would think that the amount of time you guys have been together, that it's almost like it's spread.
Yeah.
Like now it happens to her because of the connection, and like it was just crazy to hear like from a different view of people who are like informed.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of crazy to think that, we didn't have those kind of experiences growing up, but not until we were together. And that all of a sudden she was starting to, this stuff would actually happen to her.
Yeah. Or at least it didn't happen that she would recognize it as having happened.
Yes.
Right. It kind of reminds me of like that scene in Hill House. Do you remember, did you watch The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix? Did you ever see that one?
Which one was that?
It's the one about the big house that had like 100 ghosts in it, and the family, and something happened when they were young, and they were trying to figure out what it was when they were older.
Mm-hmm.
But there were all these scenes where they would just be walking around, and a ghost would be there, and they would either not acknowledge it as a ghost, or they would look at it as like a person, and then as the camera angle changed, that person who was in the scene is now gone. And they didn't explicitly point out that it's a ghost, but as you watch the story, you're like, okay, all of these people who are milling around are actually ghosts. And it kind of makes me think of that might have been your wife's experience. Maybe she saw ghosts and didn't recognize them as ghosts because she sees them as, they're not like in the movies where they're translucent and you can see through them. They just look like real people. All right. Chad says, how are you going to feel when you die? Someone pulls a headset off your head and says, how was it? Chad, that's a great question. I'm going to be like, it was all a dream. Felt like a dream.
It was in the Matrix.
Yeah. I spent 2 years of my life in Mexico. And then when I got home, I went to bed with like a Mexican accent. And when I woke up, it was like I had never left. And it was all a dream. Yeah. We do have better pictures. Are you able to get the Instagram on your laptop maybe? And we can show them a better angle, at least one we were prepared for. But yeah, Chad, that's a great question. Maybe it's not a headset, but maybe it's just like coming up for air,
unplugged or something.
Yeah, like just coming up for air, maybe. But yeah, like it was really fascinating to see how they were responding to Kyle, and they were so gracious and offering help to come help him check it out. And I feel like that kind of leads into our next topic, which we'll get to as soon as we take a look at the clip or the photo here.
Much better.
Much better. Let's see if we can get it up on the stream. You know, another thing that this industry event was great for was just like helping us connect to our audience a little better. Most of you guys came to us from Modern Comic Mayhem, which we are so grateful for. And we love that you guys are here and you participate. We are also trying to gather some of the audience for these paranormal investigators and people who have more experiences that they want to talk about. And so it was really neat to reach out to these people. And Chad saying, I think ghosts are tears in the fabric of the multiverse, bro. They aren't spirits, but just people from adjacent universes. Well, that's an interesting take.
That would be crazy. I would like to find one of those tears and go, what's up?
Yeah. I would say maybe that's the case some of the time, but I don't think that's the case all the time, because there's definitely connection with people who have lived in this universe, right? A lot of times you come across spirits, or people have come across spirits who have actual basis in our history and who are related to the places in our time and our space. So it may be the case that it is some of the time multiversal entities, but I don't think it's the case all the time. And I don't pretend to know every single case, but I just don't think it's everything.
I could see some of those. I would think the ones where I think it's more of like the ones where the guys are maybe they say that they're time travelers or something.
Oh yeah,
those would be the ones I would say that were coming through the tears of the multiverse. Like, like there's that one that Brian used to talk about where he came back and he was looking for a certain computer part and he had to
John
take
Cheater.
back. Yep. And I could see something like that being like a tear in the multiverse to jump in and out of.
Chad's also bringing up the simulation theory is a very real theory. It is, yeah. And the more you look, the more you find evidence of simulation. But for all practical purposes, it's like, well, how does that affect the way that you live your own life?
But can you imagine the simulation theory? We're going to give that guy a crappy job. Let's see how he reacts to a crappy job.
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of ways to look at the simulation theory. And I would say for the most part, it's like they deal you your initial stats and then it's hands off. It's like a Sims. Like they're not making decisions for you. They're running an initial code and then you go.
It plays out and it grows on its own.
Right. It's like there's a certain algorithm that's implanted in every NPC, which is us. And then we run the code on that algorithm. But yeah, those are all interesting takes on it.
That'd be kind of a cool episode.
It would be. And we were able to catch up with Traveling Psychic, which is Deb, which brings us to another point we'll get to later in the show. But what I wanted to talk about now, Kyle, is how is the ghost hunt going at your place?
I put a camera up like I told everybody, and my house has been the quietest it's ever been. I can only think of one incident that's happened since I put the camera up.
And it was daily, right? You were having...
It was all the time, yeah.
Encounters daily basis.
Yeah, like the one that I was talking about that's in my closet, it was daily, sits in my master bedroom closet staring into the mirror. It was daily. It was daily that something would walk up and down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's, I think last weekend, my son and I were playing guitar in my bedroom and talking music and stuff. And I thought that my wife and daughter had come home, and I thought my daughter had walked to her bedroom. And because I saw someone walk by, and I was like, oh, it looks like they're home. And I was like, that's weird. My cameras didn't go off, like my Ring.
Yeah.
Like, when you pull in, it goes off, and then we go to my front door, it goes off. And I was like, oh, that's weird. But I said, so my son walked out to go see, what was going on. He's like, there's nobody here. So I immediately went to my
Your camera.
My ghost cam,
Yeah.
nothing.
Nothing.
So I'm gonna turn it off. This is the new theory. This is the new thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna turn it off for 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 days. We'll see what happens, and then I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna move it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move it. I'm actually gonna mount it in my hallway where we see the spirits walking up and down.
So let me ask you about the camera equipment that you're using. Is it a battery powered camera? Is it something that you plug in USB? Is it plugged into the wall?
It's plugged into the wall.
Plugged in the wall. So it's generating some sort of electrical field, at least along the power cable.
Mm-hmm. And then it's if you've seen them, they're the little blink cameras. So it's got grids of what you want to
Focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have the grid like all on 100%, and I have the sensitivity maxed out.
Uh-huh.
And then I have the infrared on, or the night camera stuff on. So it's loud. When it's taking a picture, you could hear it like starting to
Okay.
initiate. Like there's a blue light on it, and then you can hear like a shutter, and then I think it turns red, and then like it records for like 40 seconds after the initial thing happens.
Yeah.
But I'm going to move it and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to our bedroom after that. So I'm going to do a week or so of the hallway and see if we can catch something, and then I'm going to move it. I might actually move it to our bathroom so that it goes into our closet where we always hear and see stuff, and then I'm going to move it to our actual bedroom to see if they come in and I can catch something coming to the foot of the bed.
Yeah.
And that's like the 3-week plan.
Yeah. I just wonder if it's something about the camera itself is kind of dissipating the spectral energy and maybe scaring them away.
They're camera shy.
But they are definitely camera shy.
They don't like the paparazzi.
All right. Chad says, my player needs to spend thousands more hours on me. Isn't that the case with everybody? But you are your own player, Chad. So if you need to spend more time on yourself, you go ahead and do it. You got my permission.
I think my player abandoned ship and moved on to a new game.
He's probably playing.
He found Fortnite or something.
Fortnite, yeah.
Yeah, he abandoned it a long time ago. Maybe he got an NES or something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe we can get some tips on equipment when we do some of these overnight hunts in August and figure out what equipment they use that doesn't offend the ghosts.
I think I'm going to get my K2 meter out again, too. And what I'm going to do is when it's the bedroom, I'll see if I can leave my K2 meter on, and I'll have it in the view of the camera so we can see if the lights actually
turn on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we got to figure out what's going on with the ghosts and the camera, because
not one perfect person offered to come and investigate, though.
Kristen didn't come. She didn't offer.
No one did. But I think that's not. And I think that's what was cool about everybody is maybe they didn't want to impose.
Yeah, it seems like their game is more of like an entertainment type of investigation rather than kind of getting to the bottom of it.
I like it's something they get to do to hang out, and it's a hobby, and if they're doing something that they enjoy doing.
Right. It's a reason to get together.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching Dog the Bounty Hunter. He goes after people with DUIs and stuff. He doesn't really go after the hardened criminals, And I feel like if it were like Ghostbuster type stuff where they're going after kind of the bigger carnivorous ghosts, they might be a little more scared to do something like that. Mm-hmm. Especially if it's in someone's house, might be reluctant to do that.
Yeah, I think so too.
So unfortunately we don't have any new footage to show because the ghosts have been camera shy, but this is something that we're definitely trying to stay on top of.
So as we were sitting here talking about what we were going to do for the show, I went through 292 different
Video clips.
that well, and the problem is it's such a high traffic area. It's me and my wife and my kids walking to the kitchen and back.
False positives all the time.
Constant. And then the guinea pigs, whoop, 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 as they're moving around in their cages, they turn it on. So when I start to think I get something, and I notice what this camera does something weird too, is it like, maybe it's like trying to focus, but it looks like this wave thing and like this little pixelation wave thing where it looks like it'll do it in part of the screen. And I'll have to show it to you. I deleted them all. Next set of videos, I'll show you what I mean. It's like this weird, like it's like almost like
it's walking in front of the camera?
Like it's analyzing each, like, because it's all these squares.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe more like it's like going through the squares. And
it's like surveying them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think you see that on the footage. So I've disregarded that since it's a constant.
Really?
Yeah, so it happens every time.
Every time.
It doesn't matter if somebody walked past, and then once that person walked past and it films for a little bit longer, it does this certain thing.
Is that what it's supposed to do, or is
I don't know,
but
it's done
the manual?
It does it every time. Let me see. Oh, it's got 4. So my wife must be getting ready for it. And then it does that. But it it's got one that stays, it's got to stay color. She walks around. See how everyone keeps always going to the kitchen? But if you look over here, you see how it kind of like, when it switched to kind of like pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does that. I think it's like constantly trying to focus, maybe.
Okay.
Or it's concentrating on the grid that I put up, or so. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. I wonder, if it's doing that in all of the videos, it's probably just part of the function. But
that's how I took it, since it's a kind of a constant.
Yeah. But there again, it might be evidence of something moving in front of the camera that we're not perceiving that the camera is.
Yeah, but since it's almost in every one, like I said, I've disregarded it.
Yeah. Well, so as we continue our efforts to bring you the clips from Kyle's house and figure out what's going on there, we also had the opportunity to catch up with one of our favorite guests, Deb Antich, from the Traveling Psychic Supper Club in Texas. And she gave us a little shout out on Instagram, and we were like, "Oh yeah, Deb is doing so awesome. We're so glad to hear from Deb," and kind of made us a little nostalgic for the last 6 months and the interviews of the people that we've been able to discuss some of these topics with. And we were like, well, what are some of our favorite interviews? Who are the people that we've talked to that we've enjoyed and that we want to have back on the program? And Deb was one that was on both of our lists. Deb Antich, she came on to remind you, she is a psychic and a tarot card reader. We've had other psychics and tarot card readers come on, but Deb kind of struck us as a standout among them, even them. And one of the things that she did was she gave Kyle and I both very accurate tarot card readings. Kyle, if you recall, yours was about the endeavor that you were embarking on, right? She said that you were going to be embarking on a new endeavor that was going to be successful. And we kind of interpreted it as this podcast, right? Yeah. And then towards the end of that episode, at the end of that interview, I asked her about my coaching my kids' flag football team and when we were going to win a game finally. Because we had gone 2 seasons without a win, and we were entering our 3rd season, and we had already done, I think, 2 games at that point, and we were still winless. And I said, hey, when are we going to win a game? And she says, she drew 3 cards, and she says, it's really more about the love of the game. I was like, okay, so we're not going to win. We're not going to win at all. That's how I interpreted it. And she was right. It is more about the love of the game. We went 18-0 over the course of 3 seasons, or so 0-18. 0-18. We didn't win a single game. We're still at it though. We're signing the kids back up, and we're still pursuing the love of the game. And ironically, like all of the kids' parents were like, "Yeah, we would love to sign our kids back up for your team." And I was like, if it were all about winning, I think then they probably would go somewhere else. But I think those parents like me are saying, well, it's about not abandoning our kids and teaching them how to struggle and push through these hard times and develop a love of the game. But yeah, I feel like Deb was on the nose, and I told her, I said, "Hey, you're 100% right about the coaching thing," and she goes, "I know." She's like, I know how they're going. I know how it's going, Coach. She's like, I got you right here.
We need to get her back on as a follow-up.
Yeah.
Let's see how things are going.
She was awesome. Really loved Deb Antich. And that, let's see. So if you're looking for Deb Antich on our list of episodes, she was episode 8, Deborah Hernandez Antich, Traveling Psychic Supper Club. It was a great episode. And maybe we'll share it in the chat. And then the next episode we want to talk about was the very next episode, which was a big highlight for Kyle, which was Greg Bakken, who was a paranormal investigator that Kyle reached out to. We usually book all our interviews through a guy named Liam, but Kyle went out and booked this interview.
Yeah,
personally.
Sticks Boy from MCM Chat had put me in contact with him, and I'd never seen anyone do a spirit box before, so that was interesting and different. And then, it was just so funny to me that, like, he goes on these ghost hunts and he does all this stuff, and I was like, well, I got some stories, and he was like,
yeah,
like he didn't know what the hell to think.
Right, because you hit him with like all of and that was probably my first time hearing about all of your ghost stories too. And it made sense to me in that moment. I was like, so that's why Kyle wanted to do this paranormal podcast. And yeah, that was an eye opener for me too, because I didn't realize that you had all those experiences in the pocket that you were ready to share.
So it was just, and he was probably one of the first people that I'd ever told that was like, oh, what we really need to look. And he was actually the first person to say, I think you have a connection to that.
Like a medium, yeah.
Yeah. So and then we've heard that multiple times since then as we've interviewed and talked to people, but he's the first person that made me think like, you know what, maybe that he's on to something.
Right.
So that was cool. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. And we've had a ton of guests on the show, lots of them really fun. I know Robert Clotworthy from Ancient Aliens was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with Hugh Newman from History Channel. He talked a lot about the ghosts, or not the ghosts, the giants. He talked a lot about giants. That was a ton of fun. But I think as far as like depth of knowledge, it's hard for me to say that anybody beats George Mitrovic from Australia. The guy wrote like 81 books in like 3 years.
He could just burn through writing.
He wrote 81 books in 3 years talking about Bigfoot stuff. And in an hour's time, we talked to him on his birthday. Mm-hmm. And he's in Australia, and it's like 4:00 in the morning, and it's his birthday, and he's like, yeah, let's talk. And we, in an hour's time, we maybe got through the front cover of his book, of one of his books. He had such a depth of knowledge, and it reminded me of this time I went to Comic-Con, and I talked to this guy from the Phoenix Astronomical Society, and talking to this guy, we got onto the topic of math, And I realized immediately this guy was way smarter than probably 99.99% of the people you'll ever meet in your lifetime. George Mitrovic gave off that same impression to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like just this absolute depth, profound depth of knowledge. And here's a guy who is using this incredible intellect to locate Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And find out, let's put this thing, like, I guess his mind is like, let's put this thing to rest once and for all. Either it's there or it's not. Let me gather all the data, systematize it, categorize it, and we'll put this thing to bed.
Sounds so daunting.
And he wrote 81 books in 3 years. That was, what episode was that? It was like 20?
18.
18. George Mitrovic. Definitely highly recommend that interview.
20 was Johnny G.
20 is Johnny G. Oh, man. What struck you? Like, what were you thinking when we started the interview? And then what were you thinking as things progressed?
So going into this, I was going to be like, all right, spectrophilia. This is definitely something different. I doubt there's many podcast episodes that have tackled this topic. So when you initially came to me and you were like, this porn star dude's going to talk about spectrophilia, I was like, hurry up.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. And then to have him come on, and the one thing I do have to say about him is he really did, after that, he did change the course of this podcast.
Yeah.
He really, like, we that's 20 in, so we were still hovering around this same kind of bubble.
Yeah. UFOs, ghosts, and monsters.
Mm-hmm. And after talking to him, really, like, it really skewed the podcast, and it almost put it on like a new timeline, I would say, of what we want to uncover and discuss on this.
We coined a new term in that episode, tinfoil territory.
Yes. And I think, and so I really had, after, because like he was just on one to start on this episode, like he had so much he wanted to get out, and he had an agenda, and we barely even talked spectrophilia.
Right. I think we got 2 stories about spectrophilia from him, and then the rest was about government remote control over super soldiers, basically.
Yeah. And that really opened us up to, like, there's some crazy stuff that we need to talk about. So, like, I actually give props to Johnny G, because it's really opened us up to, what? There's so much cool stuff. We don't actually have to, I would say, pigeonhole ourselves into this small bubble.
Right. He kind of taught me to be a little bit more brave about what I was going to talk about or explore on the show, because it wasn't just lighthearted fare. It did get pretty dark in that episode. There were a lot of dark spots in that episode. He
told us he murdered people.
Yeah, he did. And then he showed us the video of him in the hospital bleeding from his head, and it's like, whoa. Where are we going with this? And then, the claim, we called him Jason Porn, mixing up Jason Bourne and his porn star status. And I think that was something I never expected to come out of that interview.
No, not at all.
And
not one.
And so we're still laughing about it, but we are planning to pursue a little bit more understanding of this whole idea of super soldiers and remote control, brain function, and kind of basically what might it have been that Johnny G experienced through the lens of an operative from Australia, who we were able to reach out to, and hopefully she comes back on the grid. Apparently she was on some mission or trip or something, and she's been off the grid for the last probably 6 weeks or 4 weeks. And hopefully she comes back and wants to come on the show. But it was pretty wild.
It's crazy. That was only 6 episodes ago.
Yeah, and since then we have talked a lot about these kind of shadowy government organization episodes. We talked about MJ12. We talked about Stuxnet. We talked about this idea that MK Ultra was another one we talked about. This idea that government spends a lot of time not really doing the work of the people, but doing work against the people.
Yes.
And trying to cover it up. And we were trying to pin down all this different stuff as a result of Johnny G, and stuff I really wasn't intending to tackle on the podcast, but then he brought it to our attention, put it in our face, and it's hard to ignore something of that size.
I murdered 2 people.
I murdered 2 people. And hey, I'm a porn star. Join my OnlyFans.
Crazy.
It's wild, man. People still ask me, like, what's his deal? And I'm like, well, you sign up for his OnlyFans, and he will have sex with you if you've ever been possessed by a ghost. And then he'll put it on his OnlyFans. It's like, that's his business model? I'm like, yeah, that's it. He just wants to have sex with Zool from Ghostbusters.
Yes, it's just I love that we're not down one rabbit hole, but as we get into it's almost like an ant colony we're getting into. There's so many splinters that we have now, and I think that's just what's going to make this show so much fun going.
Yeah, when you're dealing with Jason Porn, there's lots of holes involved. Well, yeah, so those have been some of our favorite shows. We hope you guys stick around. We are moving into kind of a new phase of Thresholds of Reality. We've done a lot of episodes with things that have kind of come our way rather than really pursuing a particular course. But from here on out, we're going to be seeking particular types of experiences that we can bring to you guys. We're going to spend a lot of time with the folks at this is kind of hard to read, but Spiritual Paranormal Investigators Arizona, and the folks that we met there, including Haunted Arizona and Get Out Paranormal Arizona, and several others. Like, we talked to probably a half dozen of these types of organizations, but we're going to be trying to bring those to you as quickly as we can over the next couple months. In addition, we're still looking at the interviews that are coming to us through our talent booker, and we'll be talking to in the next couple of weeks. We'll be talking to a guy calling himself a psychic lawyer, and we're going to be talking to the producer of Haunted on Netflix, and then of course we want to follow up on what happened with Johnny G. And we're going to continue to do our own explorations of different topics, but we're definitely expanding our base and trying to reach out to a lot more of the supernatural community, paranormal community, UFO community, and hopefully that allows us to bring more content to you guys, more of these really personal stories or personal encounters, because that's what we're trying to document. We're not trying to shine a light on things that have lots of lights on them already. We're trying to shine a light on the hometown stuff. So if you don't get a lot of attention, you have a story that you want to tell, we're the people you want to talk to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're also going to reach out to some of those old guests or prior guests and bring them back on and see what's changed in recent months. I feel like the thing that I want to know from Deb in particular is, have current events affected the outlook for a lot of the people that she does readings for? With recession in the headlines and hitting our bank accounts, does that change our outlook? How is that affecting people? I feel like it's got to change something, right? It's got to have an effect on people somehow. So I definitely want to take a look at that. I also want to get back in touch with George Mitrovic and see if we can get maybe another slice off that iceberg and get a little bit deeper. And of course, Greg Bakken, he wanted to do an investigation with us. We have plans to visit some of the haunted locations here in the state of Arizona, and we'd love to have Greg Bakken join us on those investigations to provide some professional bona fides to the research that we're doing. So that's what you can look forward to. And we're putting all of our money and effort behind this podcast so you guys can enjoy the great content that we continue to produce. Kyle, what are your thoughts? What is the outlook for the channel as we move forward?
I think we're going to be moving on to some great things. And I think we're going to be hashtag going places.
Hashtag going places. Yeah, wink, wink. That's for the 2 or 3 people who know what we're talking about. But we very much appreciate everybody. Chad, Cave, thank you so much for joining us in the chat and sharing your thoughts on all of these many topics, simulation theory, multiverse theory. Yeah, it all comes into play. Thank you for bringing it up. Sure love to have you guys come on. Make sure that if you're enjoying the content we're producing, that you're hitting the like button, that you're subscribing, because we're going to bring a lot more to you. And if you feel like sharing the content with your friends and family, we sure would appreciate that too. Anything else?
No, like and subscribe. And if you've got an idea for a show, reach out and let us know.
All right. Well, until then, come on. Keep on exploring the edges of the unknown.